All right, welcome back from the break, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed our research day 3 so far of our virtual conference. We now have a session that's focused on communicating results to your observers. And we're really lucky that we're joined in this session by two members of Earthwise Aware. If you've been around and getting our communications over the last few years, you're probably very familiar with hearing about Earthwise Aware. We like to use them as a great example of a really powerhouse of a local phenology program. Earthwise Aware was actually our Pheno champion back in 2019, and they've been doing amazing things ever since then as well. So joining us today, we have Dr. Claire O'Neill, who is the co-founder of Earthwise Aware and the director of their Biodiversity and Climate Participatory Science program. And we also have Kathy McGlathery, who's a longtime member of Earthwise Aware, an advisor for Earthwise Aware, and the phenology site leader. So we're going to go through, I have a couple of questions to guide the conversation here. We're going to be getting into looking at some of the great resources that they've put together. But I thought before we do that, we could just kind of hear from you guys about how you got started with doing phenology and maybe a little bit of the history about Earthwise Aware.
All right. Hi, I'm Claire O'Neill. Let me check that you are seeing my screen here.
Yep, you can see
Good.
it.
So how did we start? Actually, this is very timely. So this is our website here. This is very timely because I have a slide deck, not necessarily for this, conference here, but look at that. We are about to celebrate our 10 years. And so that really adds up. And those 10 years are actually important from a phenological timing perspective, right? So we started in 2016, we incorporated in 2017. At the very beginning, we were more looking at, ethics. So that was the angle, wildlife ethics, ethics in the field. But very quickly, we started to own things and to be in the field. So I'm going to just tell you what we do here. So we are, together, what we do is that we connect people with nature through what we call participatory science, uh, which is another term for citizen science, and system thinking, or should I say ecosystem thinking. So what we do is that we document biodiversity, we monitor ecological changes, such as through Nature's Notebook. We foster ethical, so that's where the origin comes here, ethical evidence-based type of action. And doing so, we empower our people and our communities. And of course, because we are naturalists, what we like to do is also to have this sense, this thread of sharing natural history and community stories far and wide. So what we are at the core is that we are conservationists and data-driven naturalists. People join us because they also want to have a local impact there. So that's how we came into being. In terms of, just to continue a little bit on that, in terms of really what we are doing, is let me just jump. You're seeing these slides before. Oh, actually, I don't have it here. Interesting. Oh, here we are. We're looking at things, all of nature essentially to keep it whole. So we run a set of studies, and you can see that phenology is here. So phenology is only one building block of this entire, toolbox of things that we do. And so we partner with you guys because we love the rigor and the way that you are looking at phenology, as well as we partner with iNaturalist and Caterpillar Scout for our external partners. But when we see that there is something that might be missing or might be addressing, our needs better, we don't shy away from creating our own protocol to answer those questions and also to have a bigger impact in our communities. So, and where we are, finally, just to finish this introduction, we kind of record stuff everywhere we are, but we have these anchor sites, right? Where, for example, the phenology sites are. And so we are located for our anchor site really in the Boston region. We are starting to scout in the Outer Cape, and we are starting also programs in Connecticut. This is very recent. This is this year because one of our leaders is moving over there. So that's that. Is it a good intro for you, Erin?
That's wonderful. Thank you. So I know from getting your newsletter and exploring your website and seeing your communications that you really prioritize communication with the public and with your observers. Can you talk about kind of why you decided to make that such a big part of what you do and maybe show us some examples of different ways that you do that?
Yeah. So because we are doing a lot of things, when we are in the field, this is one of the example, along the way we do when we are together at one of our anchor sites or sets of site. So we have different people, from slightly different angle, and we do that, for a reason is because we are naturalists. So we want to have this different aspect clicking in, while we are surveying. So for example, here it's at Horn Pond, but Kathy does the same thing at her site. There is the phenology people looking at the trees, and around, moving around, you have the people looking at the insect on those same trees, etc. So because we have many different communities, right, and sets of observer, we want to make sure that we always have the threads. So we use a lot of different ways of connecting and communicating with our people. I think that Kathy was mentioning, we start by a weekly communication, by the way. And Kathy was reminding me that yesterday, that every Sunday we send a schedule to our entire community where you can see where we're going to be, those anchor sites during the week. And maybe I have an example here. I should have put it here and I forgot. It's always like that. Let me try to find that. Or Cassie, if you have one and a link you can send me, that would be great there. So we have this kind of, Sunday schedule where we talk, about where we're going to be, and we always weave in, some natural history. So that's one of the things that we do. We
Yeah, I
also
would just interrupt for 1 second and say that the weekly emails, which you think would be just kind of pro forma with the schedule and what's going on, are actually very attractive. They always have a nature photograph, often something that Claire has taken or somebody else who does beautiful photography and has something on iNet. This past week, she posted a picture of I cannot remember the species, Claire. Oh, right here. So, it starts out with a photograph and you look at it and say, what's that? This is just the schedule for the week. We do this for every communication just about. So that here's a photo. She leaves you, gives doesn't give a caption yet. We go through the schedule and at the bottom, there's an explanation of what we're looking at. In this case, it's eggs of a,
greater angle wings, greater angle wings.
Greater angle wings lined up on a piece of grass. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is actually an herbaceous that might be an evening primrose or goldenrod. I forgot. I was walking on one of our site, fresh pond site in the winter, and I was just looking because I always scan, and boom, I saw that, very small, very tiny little eggs, and I took the picture, and here we are a few years later, and I'm like, oh, this is a perfect time for that because that was that time of the year. So let's share, because like that you can direct the eyes of your observer. They start to look at the plant around them, right, from a different perspective there.
Right.
So
and I would say that the letterhead, the photograph, the explanation, and often at the bottom of the email, not in this case, there is a photograph of volunteers in action. I mean, all of that is part of what we do to be make everything really an engaging communication.
Yeah, I love that the photography is the hook. And you mentioned that people have questions about it. Do they often come to those sessions to ask you about the photo, or do you get emails about that to kind of
emails.
explain what they're looking at?
Yeah, well, they know because that usually we have a caption somewhere, right? But sometimes they have more questions about it, so they interact with us as well, through these channels. Or they come in the field and I say, "Oh, by the way, this picture that you had this past Sunday, can you tell me more about that?" Or I saw one there, so this kind of thing. So it's a kind of it becomes a conversation piece, right, throughout our communities. So this kind of regular communication to keep, our community engaged is very important. At this time of the year, this is our, thank you time. We spend a lot of time thanking people, as well as updating some of our story maps. So here, this is our general story map that we update every single year to draw all our statistics. So here, the thing there is a kind of a boilerplate about what we do, but what I want to show you there is maybe, talking more about our maps. So we start to have this map where you can see, well, where our anchor sites are. And even more interactive than that, then you can go into these interactive maps here that are going to draw you to what we are, recording specifically at this site. And here is Kathy, by the way, here, and her team at Long Pond, right? So, and we try, I mean, it's tough sometimes to be up to date, but thankfully, we are a community, so we pay attention, right, to one another. And so here at this specific site, we have 14 species that we are actually documenting through Nature's Notebook, as well as our arthropod survey there, as well as our bird, because we have a bird team as well, or people who document the birds along the way as well. So that's that. And also this, story map, this kind of yearly story map, is also one that pull the data from the year, of all the things that we've been looking at and through time as well. So as of last year, we can count that we have more than 1 million ecological data points, across different dimensions, right? So that's something that is very important, and we want to show our people in a kind of engaging manner, kind of visually striking. Hey, look, this is a ton of data that we have. And by the way, we have the narrative there as well, so here that's a different kind of things. Here you are, guys, where we say, oh, look, Nature's Notebook is also using our data, or some of our site to explain to their own community. So like that, it's really reward our community in terms of all the different aspects that the data or their work is being used by our partners or by our local community as well. So this is Nature's Notebook here. Then, okay, that's more, I need to redo these things a little bit, from an aesthetic point of view, I feel it's a little bit grainy there. But this is INAT stuff, and we do a lot of annotation on INAT as well, which is important. This is our big work on insects, because we look at things in terms of interaction between the different entity of a space. So we're looking both, by the way, at the phenology of the plant, as well as, the insects that are on that plant. I just want to mention quickly that this is one of the things where we use phenology. I just realized that, Kathy, today, which is one of the big use of phenology for us, for instance, is to go and monitor local population of other species that depend on those species. And they are really completely tied to a specific aspect of that phenology. So here, for instance, when we see the flowers of the, the false fern foxglove, which you don't have in your database, by the way. So we also have our own phenology things, which is a little bit more where we can move through space. And so we start to look very closely at the phenology of this plant, because we know that as soon as we see the flowers, we know that we're going to have, at some point, spiders coming in. And when the spiders are coming in, we know that the caterpillars that we are looking for are going to be there as well. And then we can go deeper and document those insects that we later can report at the Natural Heritage, which is, a state organization for the Endangered Species Program. So just wanted to mention that while we were there. So anyway, so this is a story map here where we have the whole narrative, where we go beyond just describing, the program, but also talk about the impact on a yearly basis. And of course, that some of those story maps can be more geared towards, very specific things such as, phenology. And I think that you got that one that you liked a lot at the very beginning. Which one is it? This one here.
Yeah, so before we launch into that, I do just want to, for people that aren't familiar, can you give a little bit of an overview of what a story map is and kind of like the components of it, and just talk about kind of why you decided to use that method?
So story map is only one of our methods. It's actually not necessarily the easiest methods, and I don't want to discourage anybody or anything like that, but this is very much work involved. So story map is one of the tools of Esri, which is ArcGIS, which allows you to embed maps somehow and interactivity of maps. So they also have, as slide, the ability to put slideshows in their story map, which is nice visually and that we take advantage of. But the core here is really the ability to input maps. And we use that a lot for some other surveys, such as habitat fragmentation, which are more map dependent. And then because we're using story map, we say, oh, wait, we can use that also for phenology, a little bit less map driven at this time, although it might become that way, but more for the visual aspect of it, right? So this is, as I said, a resource tool in the toolbox of all the ArcGIS people here, which is not even necessarily, I mean, it's expensive. I find it expensive, and it needs, you need to have technology, a kind of a technology mind behind the scenes, so that you can also evolve and understand how the resource tool evolves through time. So, but visually it's cool, but you can do things similarly, probably with other things too. And as I said, we often, prefer to have something simpler, right? Does it
Yeah, and
answer
I
what
think
you, yeah?
I think it's good to be thinking about, for people that don't have access to the ArcGIS aspect of this, just to kind of think about what are the aspects of what you guys have in your story map here that they could kind of emulate in different ways.
Yeah,
The use of photography and
yeah.
the bringing in different components. So as we look through this really wonderful story map example that they have here, you can kind of be thinking about what are the elements that you might want to use in your own programs.
Yeah. So for this story map, that was the very first one that we did with the story map, right? So, and we wanted to use a species, and you ask at some point, what drive your species choice. For me, it's often in context and ecological context. But in this case, for the first one, we were also trying things out. So we wanted to have something that we had in our toolbox of what we were observing, for which we had pictures, because we have now more than 1 million pictures also from our community through INAT, etc. And some are really striking because people pay attention to details. And in this case, it felt that for this one specifically, the first one, that the red maple, as Erin mentioned a little bit earlier, is a good one because this is one of the most studied in Nature's Notebook, for example. It's also an indicator species, so that's a nice way to start, the flow of all the story maps or whatever reporting at IWA. So that was the choice there. So we really like to engage and explain, why phenology, and even remind people of why phenology, because the audience of those story maps, by the way, is very large. It's both our community of phenologists, and it's always nice to remember or to remind ourselves of why we do phenology, the importance of it, right? But it's also to attract, the people outside our communities that we want to invite to do phenology or other thing with us, as well as it's a way to report to our partners as well, for them to see what happens on their land, or to also try to educate them about the importance of phenology and other things that we do. So we have that. And what we very quickly, we said, we spend so much time observing that we saw that grabbing the attention of our audience through a story, because, being a naturalist is about telling stories, essentially. So somehow it came naturally to us that we wanted to take the opportunity to take the story, for instance, to tell the story, for instance, of the red maple throughout one of its year cycle. And that's what we did here. So I'm going to run through that. There is also some sound behind the scene. Here you have the ecological component a little bit here, right? So you can hear usually the sound of the red-winged blackbird. And then here we're going to move, through, and we have a narrative, right? So Kathy worked, on the narrative of the story map here, of this a year in the life of a red maple. And so see, beautiful, clear shot here of the female, right? Talking about the male, right? Which also gives us an opportunity to talk about, the dioecious, how red maple are in majority dioecious. And in the field, we also say, but there are other cases, for the red maple. Here, the fruit, right? More mature fruit, etc., etc. So it gives us really an opportunity to stop, to grab the attention, and to spend the time talking about it, right? And usually people are hooked by the pictures, right? So we are visual, we're kind of a visual species here, etc., etc. And then after that, we dig, into more of the data itself. Does it answer your question, Erin?
Yeah, so for the photos, you mentioned that you kind of get them from your community as well. Do you have like a way that you collect them and store them, and kind of
Yes.
invite people to submit them?
Yeah. So here I'm going to show you that because we have, oh God. I'm going to show you that here. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let me do that again.
So the
We
collection
have,
of photos is on INET in general.
yeah,
Everybody uploads their photos to INET.
I'm not succeeding today.
And
So
then when we're
then how do
looking at
you,
photos, we're looking for particularly
There we
sharp
go.
photos, well
uh-huh.
focused. They have to be in the right orientation,
Yeah.
and have to be what you're really looking for. It can take some digging,
Well,
even through
although,
our own even to
Yes.
our own photographs. We only look at our own photographs.
Exactly, because this is also, but it takes some digging, although we have a set of annotation on INAT, right, which completely simplify the entire thing here. So, for
Right,
example,
right. So we can search for a red maple in bud.
exactly. So here, see, we have, oh, yeah, here, see that? We have an EWA plant for phenology here. And now if I was to click there, so we spend the time, we have annotators as well, or a few of us who annotates, and then we can look at all the plants that have this annotation, and we can, of course, reduce on the red maple, right? So it takes some digging, but we've been annotating. We have tens of thousands of annotation. And so fairly, quickly we can get to what we want, right? So that's how we have all the pictures. And like that, it gives us also an opportunity through the story map to reward our people because they see their pictures now in the story map. They see something. So they took the phenology or with Nature's Notebook, or they never did Nature's Notebook, but they took the phenology in some sense on INAT following our annotations, and here their pictures is here, right? So that's really a nice way to reward our communities as well. Did it make sense?
Yeah, that's great. And I could see doing that in, I think we've talked about calendars, like wall calendars and putting together like Indiana Phenology's done, using submitted photos from their community. That could be another way to kind of use photos and kind of acknowledge contributions from your observers, or even just sending out basic emails that have a featured photo from someone
Yeah,
who submitted it, and focusing
exactly.
on a different species, maybe once a month or once a season.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to show one thing there too. We are developing Finno stories right now where we can also specifically, have, so we incorporate here, look at that, here you are. We just pulled some of the data from our communities here. And on top of that, remember, we like to see things in terms of system, and we have a lot of annotation other than phenology where we can pair and find the association of our species with other species, right? And then here, same thing here, we select specifically, pictures from our community to explain the different phenophase there. And we annotate these pictures as well, right? So there's so many ways that we can reuse, from our community, INET community specifically, and reward the people developing resources as well, for multiple communities and crossing communities as well, right?
Claire,
So
could I just interject,
Yeah, and I
slightly off topic, but not incredibly so. We have a number of people who volunteer with us who can't go in the field or who work with us in the Boston area and then move away and still want to be involved.
that's true.
And asking them to develop a pheno story, or they can write a newsletter, or they can, help create a library of resources is something that they are eager to do. So
Yeah,
it's one way of, by having this habit of so much communication and the photography and the linking between the various apps, it really makes it easy to engage those people, whether in Chicago or Brazil or in Boston.
absolutely. And we have now someone from Chicago, Melody, who was with us at Bellevue, and she left. And 3 months after leaving, she said, Claire, I still want to be involved. Can I do something? And I say, how about working on phenostories and maybe finding those species that intersect between where you are now and where you were, right? So try to hook, with a foot in each of the camps where she was or where she is, right?
So it
So,
does
yeah.
it helps us recruit volunteers also.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love that idea of offering kind of different roles to your observers. Like maybe someone isn't really interested in doing really regular data collection, or they're not able to go out into the field. You can offer them another way to contribute by taking photos or even digging through old photos that they have that might be useful.
Yeah, absolutely. And we really, encourage them to look at the entire community so that they learn how to reward the community as well, right? They are part of the community. And on top of that, at the end, so Melody is going to start to have her name in the resources because she will create the resources, right? This one, I created it, as a starter, right? And then that would be nice to have, where the source of the story map as well, which, INAT enables to do fairly easily as well there. So
And Lisa just put in the chat that if your observer Melody is now in Chicago, they would welcome her on their Bloomingdale Trail
oh,
if she
I
wants a
love
new
that.
LPP to contribute to.
This is great. This is great. So yeah, so I need to have this little bit of information because I'll definitely, Melody is a wonderful observer. So I'm sure she will like, and she's now studying environmental study. Actually, just a little side story, being with Earthwise Aware somehow directed, her academic career. Now she's looking at doing environmental work because she was with EWA. So, which is, it's satisfactory for us, right? We feel good about it, right? So, so that's
Yeah.
that.
And Lisa put her email in the chat if you want to grab that to
Perfect.
pass along.
Great. Thank you so much, Anela.
So maybe we can
Mhm.
talk about some of the other aspects of the story map. You have showed the phenology calendars a couple times, and just another plug for our Biz Tool workshop tomorrow morning. We're going to be walking through how you create those. But do you have like a kind of an assigned person? I know you mentioned you do that sometimes, but are there other people on your team that also can create those calendars for the story maps?
So we do, so with our intern, we have a mentorship. And so we show them, we teach how to do this Pheno calendar and to start to include them in some of the different narratives. And to tie those different narrative, insect, etc., because we are looking at ecology of species there. So our intern now are really the ones who develop those calendars. And sometimes what they do, because we have phenolite as well, which is a slightly different protocol, right? And we are looking now that we have a lot of data, not with phenolite, but across time, we are looking at the aggregation of data so that we can have combined calendars, showing probably the NPN style, just because it's a nice, de facto by default type of style of calendar. So that's something that we are looking to do with our interns as well, or our engineer volunteers, because more and more we have engineers volunteers who say, "Oh, I can, manipulate a database." I say, "Well, yeah, okay, fine, but can you understand ecology?" Right? So come in the field first so that you have a sense, and then they make their way, because that's one thing to understand a database. That's a whole different story to visualize it, from an ecology standpoint, right? So does it answer your
Yeah,
question?
can you talk a little bit more about your intern program? I think might be of interest to some of the other programs. How did you get that started and what does that involve?
So our intern program, let me go there here. So you can see that here. Our intern program, we have seasonal internship where people are coming, right? And they learn how to, first they are doing an ecology internship with us. So therefore they are in the field and they're gathering data, right? Phenology, whatever angle they are coming from or whatever, starting interest they have, we're going to engage them at this level and then expand the horizon. So we have them for about 180 hours, right? In the field, and we have not in the field with us, right? With a portion being in the field with us for several reasons, because they are with communities. They are with Kathy, they are with Joanne, depending on the site that they choose as well, right? And the key here for us is to really infuse this kind of Iwa spirit about, natural history, to understand also about ethics, and to also understand about the communities and therefore how to communicate with the community. And we have one of their assignments, by the way, which is to communicate with the community and to write a monthly news digest where they summarize articles, research article or whatever, or gray literature articles on whatever topic of interest, ecological interest, of course, so that we learn from their interest and we teach them how to communicate at a high level while still luring the people to read about what they are interested in. So like that, we can expand our knowledge and we can expand their tool about how to communicate, because this is something that we think is important. It's one thing to look at data, if they know even how to look at data. It's another thing to communicate about data or about whatever conservation topic, right? So we have them, they usually have, a project that is assigned. They have a learning, they have mandatory reading with us about ethics, about participatory science. They have field work, right, with us. They have communication assignments, and they have a main project where we teach them research tools, right? Most often, although some are not interested in that, and so we redirect so that we can fulfill, their area of interest and build on that, right? So, and like that, they can come with a deliverable. And I say that because there is one that you might be interested in. So let me go back here quickly, just quick little things. This is from Amanda. Okay, here. It's remarkable that our site's a little bit heavy. We're going to look at changing stuff there. But one of the deliverable potential is, so we work with experts as well. We worked here with two. She's in Brazil. Actually, she's back in Oregon now. And this one was an intern from Leslie. Wonderful work on invasive. And our latest one is Amanda. And here, here, there we go. She built a pocket fill guide. We have the,
Oh,
right?
I
And
was going to just add that Amanda is one of the, usually we have undergraduate college students. Amanda was a master's degree candidate and had a lot of more background than most of our undergrads have, but she added a lot to our program in the short time she was with us.
absolutely. We're grooming her. We're grooming her for more in the future. But this was one, besides, building calendars, building narrative, etc. She also has one of this outcome, which is a field pocket guide on the common trees of Greater Boston, and to really gear towards, a botanical keys and of course phenology as well. So pretty cool stuff, right? We try to be, you know, it's about communication. It's about, if they are more on the science part, then we want to make sure that they can communicate, well with the public, because this is something that is lacking often in science, right? So we are very organic in the sense that we look at the person, we test a little bit. I'm like, oh, okay, this is how we could use that skill. This is how we can expand her or his skills, right? And we always learn in the process as well, right? This is a nice thing, right, Kathy?
Yes, yeah. The interns tend to bring a wonderful energy to the program. They're only with us for a short time, but it is really fun to have them around. They all feel pretty lucky to have landed an internship that involves environmental studies and gives them so much. I mean, I would say Claire's mentorship is very much hands-on. She's talking with them, meeting with them, communicating with them all the time, and they are learning a lot.
Yeah.
So, they're not just with us to fulfill to accomplish something we really want to be done without a lot of feedback. They are genuinely mentored, and I
Yeah.
know they all leave with a feeling of satisfaction that they've learned a lot.
Yeah, yeah. And so there's a skill-based internship. And we are building now a
Mhm.
mentorship, which is a longer thing, more research-oriented, a stipend mentorship with us.
Yeah,
So,
it's amazing that you have so many different aspects of your program. And I think for it to work the way it does, I can see how you would need to have volunteer leaders like Kathy. So I'm curious, Kathy, how did you kind of transition? I'm assuming you started out as an observer and then you've transitioned into this leadership role. How did you kind of get into that?
Well, I'm one of several leaders who in various sites where we operate. I mainly work with Nature's Notebook, but I also use the other apps and work with people who use the other apps to monitor arthropods and so forth. I started out looking, honestly, I was looking for something I could do with my 19-year-old son to get him out of the house. And and he loves the fells, which is in the area where Ewa's field work began. And and I searched and searched, and I kept seeing this shadow of Earthwise Aware. Finally, I tracked down a place where we could sign up for a walk. We went on a walk, an early walk. It was in 2018. Claire and the original group of people involved with Ewa led a vernal pool walk in March. And we went by a vernal pool that was still completely frozen over. And while we're watching it, a wood frog skittered across the top of the pond.
remember.
In spite of the fact that the ground was covered with snow and it was cold, this group of people could point out so much richness that was going on around us. I think my son and I both thought we had found people we really wanted to spend time with. And so we continued to sign up for walks and learn a lot, notice a lot of things. We both had spent a lot of time in the woods, but not looking this closely. And and Claire, by the end of the spring, she said to both of us, why don't you come to Long Pond on the Fells with me on, such and such morning and see if you like monitoring. And we both did that. Michael was there for a while. He's a great spotter of insects, so that was his
Yeah.
focus. Um, I just really liked the work, the people, other volunteers. Um, so that was 2018, 2019, 2020. We got set to do some monitoring. And of course, we couldn't be together out in the field anymore. So Claire got in touch and said, how'd you like to take charge of this site? And I didn't feel ready, but I was game because I wanted something to do too. And so from then on, it was kind of my site in terms of leading people around. I monitored alone for a season. I remember there was a day when Claire showed up one day and it was like a magical day. She saw some things. She was there much longer than I was, and she saw some very cool things after I left.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
She saw a
Fisher.
mother Fisher cat
And a
and
kid.
her kit in a tree.
Yeah.
Um, and as things went along, I liked doing the work. I decided to take the local phenology leader class at Claire's suggestion. And I've just loved working with the other volunteers and interns and Claire and everybody and the other leaders and so forth. Over the years, it's a highlight of my week. So
So here,
it's
this is a Fisher that I saw after
Yeah, that's
Kathy
amazing.
left. During the
mhm.
COVID, we started to build maps so that people could find their trees because we're in the forest, we're not in a garden, and there is no sign. So that led to, the creation of, maps with, more information, etc. there. And then I showed you here, well, Kathy, this is Mike, and Mike became my right arm for a long while, and he was actually a educator or co-leader for mentoring our interns as well because he was less in the field, he had less opportunity, he's young, he works, etc. So but he's a terrific communicator, so he helped tremendously in helping those young ones really to know how to communicate with an audience. We even had, videos where we were showcasing him during COVID. He has this kind of radio voice, smooth voice. I mean, my secret, wish was to have not Mike's voice because that would be weird, but this kind of pace, etc. It's just a great, great, great young man. So anyway, great son, Kathy.
Thank you. I'm proud of him.
Yep.
I've heard, Claire, you talk about quite a bit your phenology walks that you do as a kind of a recruitment tool, because I think you've said that you'll have people that'll come out and they just want to have an experience of walking around in the woods with someone who knows a lot about nature. And then you kind of from there can identify the people that seem like they're really into it. And you go after those people like you did with Kathy and try to recruit them into doing observations long term. So
Yep.
I
Yep.
think that that's a really great method of trying to just do some recruitment and also just some education and see who's interested in getting involved.
It is also an excellent outreach. Just getting people to
Yeah.
understand the complexity and the value of the biodiversity that's around us. And just a really short thing. My granddaughter goes to a nursery school in Cambridge, and about 2 weeks ago, one of the directors of the school approached me and somehow had found out that I was associated with Iwa. He had been on an Iwa walk, and he said, I have never experienced anything like this before, and I need your help. He said, we have a secret garden
Oh,
here. Actually, it's a tiny space that's has a gate that goes into it and makes it seem really secret and special. And when you enter it, you're under bamboo, which originally, my first reaction was, oh my gosh, bamboo. But it's magical for the kids, devoid of much biodiversity. There's a huge tree in it, very trampled, whatever. But anyway, that's what happens. He went on one walk. he has this mission of doing a little bit of nature with the kids in his school, and he is just gung ho to make sure that there's some biodiversity that his kids can see.
Great.
I don't know how I'm going to be able to help him exactly, but I will say there's this huge tree that takes up a big part of this land, and we walked out into this space, my granddaughter and this guy and I looked in the tree and I said, "Is that real?" And he said, "What?" And there was a barred owl sitting on a branch in this tree, like 30 feet over our head, which he had never seen. So maybe looking up is one of the hints I can give him.
Yeah.
But
Great.
anyway,
Great
that
advice.
kind of thing happens all the time on the walks. It's an advocacy for the environment. It's an entree to understanding the complexity of the environment, and people are hooked. You can,
Yeah.
we call it a walk, but it's really a wander. And occasionally someone will show up with hiking boots on, and we'll say, "You're not going to need those," because we don't walk very far or very fast. But
That's
we
what I say.
spend 3 hours talking about nature.
Yeah.
That's
So yeah, we
amazing.
have walks there. Just wanted to show you that. Yes, yeah. Other questions, Erin, just to keep me on track, keep us on
Yeah,
track.
well,
Yeah.
I'd like to go back to the story map because I know
Mhm.
that in addition to the beautiful photos and the phenology calendars, you have some other things in there. I
Yeah.
know a big part of a lot of the recent ones is natural history and just teaching about a particular species. So you've featured different species over the last few years. Can you talk a little bit about like how you picked those and like whether there were like certain people that were involved in the decision-making process there?
So again, it's organic, it's data driven as well, right? So in this case here, I'm just going to show that because it's also a nice one. This is about, which one is it? Oh, that's a
This
pollinator
is this
plant.
the nectar connector one?
Oh yeah, so I'm just looking. Oh, here we are. I'm looking at an oak and I was confused for a second. So
Oh,
here, yeah, we're looking the oak. We're going to talk about that one as well. So this one, we let Jennifer pick. So Jennifer Clifford, she's a plant pathologist from Harvard, and she's a terrific phenologist as well, and she has a site. And so I flirted with the idea. Of course, for me, insect is also part of the deal as well, one way or the other. And so naturally, Jennifer, started to discuss about the nectar connector campaign that we are doing that, and then we started to build around that. So we pulled the data, we pulled the pics. So in this case, we wanted to focus on the growing center and Jennifer, as being the lead, for this story map there. I just want to, so here you have same thing. Each time we take the opportunity to reward our people, to talk about intricacies, of an open flowers here, of a purple, Eastern purple coneflower, etc. The fruit, all these kind of things. We have here connections between, insect, papilio here and the plant, etc., etc. And then we're talking more about, the data behind the scenes, only in terms of engagement. We talk about the phenolite as well, because this is another of our tools. And some data comes into the picture. I didn't refresh my memory about exactly what we tackled here. But I'm sure that there are some stuff there happening. Unveiling, or here, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to look. So another one here is, this one was an interesting one here, because we had an intern, Kate, and Kate spent a summer with us. And then she volunteered with us. And then she wanted to do a capstone with us. She's from Brandeis. She wanted to do a research capstone with us. So she loved us. She wanted to absolutely to be with us longer. And we took her. And actually, by the way, she's now an internship, committee member, and we are grooming her for board member as well, right? For board director of the board. We think that it's important to have the new guard there as well. And she's excellent material for that. So for her, in her case, she wanted, this was with university, and she started to focus on oaks as well. So she spent a tremendous amount of time at Kathy's sites, right, working on oaks, gathering tons of data, and learning also how to go through this data, how to ask research questions, how to do literature research. So it was a long process, long just because it's a lot. It's a lot for a young mind. And we were very much involved with that. Kathy, Jennifer again here, to help her learn how to be a researcher, right? So in this case, the reason why we picked the species is because naturally Kate wanted to go in this direction. Oaks are very important for me. So I'm game with a lot of these species anyway, right? We picked them in the first place for a reason. On top of that, I'm from Brittany, right? So I'm in France, and oaks is a very important tree for me in my culture, right? So I was super happy that she took over there. So that was a rationale here. She also learned how to look at other data set than the phenology network data set. Phenolite was too young at the time for really have meaningful data there, but she started to also communicate with and connecting with researcher in the area. Fantastic work, wonderful. And I don't know if Colleen is at this talk here, but Colleen was an advisor, I guess, university advisor. So we have a strong relationship there as well. Built probably also through Kate, right? So there's so many ways of connecting with other people, around our intern, their university advisors, the community at large. This is just a fantastic means there. So the story map for us, was a way somehow to help her and to give her tools and to learn also how to communicate this kind of heavier result there, right? And you can see here.
And
Yeah.
oh, sorry. Let me just jump in and say, because you mentioned Colleen. So Colleen Hitchcock at Brandeis University is going to be at our educator Q&A panel tomorrow. So definitely tune in for that.
Yeah. Yeah. She built that as well because we have other ways of looking at calendars as well, right? So that was our old ways. We're going to change that, but cool stuff there. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would open it up if anyone else has questions for Claire and Kathy. This is definitely meant to be an open discussion. So if you want to put things in the chat, or people can raise hands and unmute if you'd like to ask questions directly. And then I think there have been a few questions in the chat kind of related to the other kind of monitoring that you all do and the ways that you use like the phenolite and things that are not on the Nature's Notebook list. So I know Kathy kind of answered that a little bit in the chat, but do you want to say anything about that?
And I just added a link in the chat to our app collection on Anecdata. If you would like to take a look at ways we've collected, the other ways we collect data. In that collection, there are also purpose-developed apps for things like monitoring anticoagulant rodenticide in bait boxes. Things like habitat fragmentation. After the pandemic, we noticed at our sites, particularly in the fells, which is a 2,500 acre reserve where we work, that things are trampled and there were a lot of rogue trails and that the habitat was being degraded. So that the app we use to collect data for that is their trail report.
And if I can say something quickly on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
The DCR, Department of Conservation and Recreation, France organization use that now as well as work with us so that we help them, or we provide reports for them so that they can read the data and, inform actions, conservation actions. So we have, all this app that we've created came because we are naturalists, so we look at things, I'm not going to say in a different way, but, in a specific way, and we see an opportunity which is important because otherwise why create another app? I always say never recreate stuff that are out there, but we didn't find the level of thing that we wanted to see, and therefore we plunge. So here, phenolite is one thing. We can talk more about that. Buggy is because it's a tight interaction between an insect and its plant. So it's tie them both very closely. Here, it's because we want to be able to move. So Nature's Notebook is cool if you always look at the same pool. But for us, we move a lot in space, and we want to have, richness in terms of where we move to record, vocalization or sightings so that it can inform where we go so that we can document those pools and report to the natural heritage as well as the organization that are behind the sites where we operate. This one here is an important one, is we've seen a lot in urban spaces. We have a lot of poaching happening of plants, native plants. There is really an enthusiasm about native plants, people not realizing that your forest is not, take it all. We have to be cautious there. right? So we make sure that we can communicate about evidence so that the DCR can say, oh, we have a problem here. This patch of round lobe hepatica is being, trampled or poached or whatever, or these mushrooms there. We need to have a better communication way to communicate with the community so that they don't take mushroom for this space, this kind of stuff there. And yes, the rodenticides is because there were no collective data set open to the public. So that was behind closed door. And we wanted to make sure that we could empower, the people so that they have proper data about both the raptors, the animals being potentially affected, those devices that you see in your street or anywhere, as well as garbage problem, so that they can go to their representative and say, we have a problem. And if the guy said, you don't have proof, they can say, yeah, here we are, right? So it's about empowerment of the people. Open data like that is so important. And there is so many different ways that we engage. We can engage communities in our cities to really better protect biodiversity because, biodiversity is here, right? So it's a beautiful somehow way of preserving and improving our spaces because we are here and conservation starts where we live, where we are, right? So that's that. Kathy,
I'd
yeah.
I'd be happy to tackle a question about IWA. We are a 501c3 organization, and newly have a new, more engaged, active, informed, and expert board, sort of reforming ourselves in a way to become more official. Funding, well, we ask for contributions. Claire does not draw a salary. We are extremely fortunate that she decided to begin this organization many years ago, 10 years ago, out of she's always had a passion. I'm going to speak for Claire for a second. She can add. She's also always had a passion for biodiversity and the environment, the forest, and all that. And she had a career as a data scientist. She worked for tech companies. And so someone asked about the website and things like that, the apps. Claire's developed the apps. Claire developed the website. At present, I believe one of the projects on the hopeful schedule is to look at the website, get a website person to help us with the website.
Yeah.
But we'd be looking for, we may, with our current status, we probably get someone we can pay to do do that work.
Yeah.
So contributions, we had the amazing good fortune that one of Claire's dear friends left a bequest to IWA recently that's going to enable us to do things like hire some people. But it's an entirely, except for special projects, it's entirely a volunteer organization.
The only people who gain now, money are our intern, stipend interns. So we don't have salary per se. We have consultants. So interns, we say, hey, you have something about GIS. I like that. I like what you see. Do you want to become a consultant? So then, they have a contract, etc. So we like to hire, our interns later so that they can gain also some money there. So the only people who draw money from IWA are our interns and our mentees right now. And external contractants.
It's really impressive, all the things that you've done. And you're so lucky to have Claire at the head as someone with so much expertise and being able to set up the website and do the data visualizations and the apps and things like that.
The key is not to have that only in my hands. So I'm always looking to, right? So
Yeah.
I'm trying to get these young ones. I'm getting there slowly so that they take over. I want, right? I just want to be in the field. Right?
Lisa, I saw you put your camera on for a sec. I just wanted to make sure. Did you have a question or something you wanted to say?
No, it's amazing. I'm really enjoying this presentation and it's so inspiring. It's got my mind going. So thank you very much. Very enjoyable. Yeah.
Welcome.
So yeah, I wonder, I think all the things that you guys have put together, it's truly amazing. The website and all the materials. For people who maybe don't have that the website capability and the skills or the expertise in doing story maps and data viz. What do you recommend as like something they could start with for communicating results? Are there like a couple little things that you would recommend for people that are just doing this for the first time?
Yeah, both on the website, by the way. So the website, I keep saying that, and Rob is going to be unhappy with me. There is the Boston Biodiversity Consortium. You can create a website with Google easily, actually, right? So that's something, and it's really plug and play. So you can stay very simple at the very beginning, right? I'll find that link to the Boston Biodiversity Consortium that I created. So use those resources. They are free resources, outside or very low cost resources. And now there's a lot of plug and play things, right, where you drag boxes, etc. And simpler the better. Our website looks great, but it's very heavy because we are content heavy, and that's why we want to have everything streamlined at some point, right? So it built organically, and of course, when something grows organically, then you have these issues there. So that's on the website. Thanks. Feel free to contact or connect with me. I'll give you some tips and I'll redirect you. In terms of communicating with your audience, the simpler the better. Story maps great, but there are tools that you can use, right, easily in order to create, things like that, right? I kind of like, it's interesting to see that no matter how many beautiful story maps we create, at the end of the day, a lot of people love just this simple 8 pages kind of conservation highlight, right? And that you can create your thing yourself, right? This is a Google Doc essentially that became a PDF there. The key is just to have it. And this is something we send to our patrons that we have laminated. People like to flip. They can see in the 8 pages. It's not too long, right? Because I can be verbose talking about data, right? But here it's not too long. It's value the community. It sees the impact, right? And they like it because it covers everything. It's a yearly kind of thing. It's looked more than this fancy, story map here, right? Right. So the simpler, the better. I forgot where it is now. Too many stuff. Where is it? Oh, here, right? So this is a simple Google Doc. And you can probably have an intern as well, helping or using members from your community to try to brainstorm about, layout, right? Think simpler, short, right? How to engage visually with pictures, etc. If you have those. Simple graphs. As a statistician, I see too many complex stuff out there. Often I say, no, keep it simple, stupid, kiss, right? Because that's what talks to an audience. Fancy, complex heat map, sometimes if it's not labeled properly, people are not going to look at it. Oh, cool. And then what? What did you gain? Nothing. So the simpler, the better, more impactful. And talking about the impact and talking about also what direction you're going. So we have our data. We make sure that people understand that the data is used at many different levels. The Iwa buggy is used by the city of Somerville that became the baseline, for their pollinator action plan. Because we're also out there saying, oh, by the way, there is this database here. Oh, but we have INAT. And then me, Erin and Kathy, I'm going to say, well, INAT is cool, but INAT is not going to help you derive abundance, relative abundance, or even plain composition. You cannot even do a proper BioBlitz somehow, right? Because you cannot do an inventory because there is no negative data point. So we use the data, we aggregate data, and I often say to people who come with us, volunteers, for example, IWA is also a space for innovation, for thinking about problem, how to visualize better, simpler maybe, so that we can have an impact locally and pushing to the local organization. We are pushing the city of Somerville. I'm going to meet with the mayor next week, right, to try, not just me, but to make sure that, am I going to be listened to? You're talking about pollinators. Think about your invasive species there. If you don't address invasive species, you have an issue there, right? So it's about engagements. It's about connecting. It's about really relating to every member of the community and showing things in a way that is as simple as possible, but show definitely, I guess your genuineness is important, right? Showing how genuine we are. And we are genuine. We really believe in what we're doing and we care about each other, right? So that's, we've been together for a long while, right, Kathy? We're aging together. That's what's happening.
I think that's great advice. Keep it simple. Try to tell a story. I think the photos are just such a great visual. And you have the photos both of the beautiful plants and animals that you observe, and then also the people that are observing.
Exactly, exactly. Look at this one. This is a tiny little mushroom. Kay has a knack for tiny little millimeters fungi, right? So, and simple, we often forget about our spring ephemeral. I'm looking forward to the bloodroots, in a few months there. So, and I try to remember to take picture of the people because often I'm, head down looking at something. And we have tons of people. I was looking for a picture of a profile picture for Kathy, and I said, I have tons of picture of you looking at stuff, engaging with the community. I don't even have a face looking at me picture. Like, so I have to do
Always
that on
looking at a
it.
plant or something.
Exactly. I
That's
was looking
right.
at
Talking to
something.
somebody.
Does it
I
make sense?
posted in the chat, I posted a link in case you're interested to our conservation report collection. So if you want to look at the variety of reports over the years or
Yep.
this year, they're all
Yep.
there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Claire and Kathy. That was wonderful. We're going to post some of these links in our guide so that people can have easy access to them. And we're also looking into some options in the forum to get some of these resources posted in kind of the relevant sections there. So thanks so much for all you do at Earthwise Aware and sharing some of your guidance with us today. I think it was really helpful for everyone.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. Thank you
Yes,
so much for
glad to
having
do
us.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.